Hi!
Ah! How's it going?
It's going well. How about you? It's 14.
Did you get your tilt figured out?
What?
Did you get your tilt figured out?
No. That's all right. We'll get there. We are now one step. I don't feel weird about it. So what happened last night was I took a snapshot of the stars in Celestia that are all marked now. I figured out the code to tell Celestia to tag a star and rename it with my name. So, Bellatrix still says Bellatrix, but all the stars around Bellatrix now say all the names of all the worlds in Bellatrix Rising. And I've tagged it. And so that's how I found out that I was still off by tilt, because I took and made an Excel document with all of the X, Y, and Z information that I got and had it plotted on an XY grid. So top-down picture of the stars. And then took a snapshot of Celestia and they didn't line up. The stars didn't line up. And I was like, uh-oh. And then I rotated Celestia. And once I got to about, 60 degrees up, they all lined up perfect. So I was like, crap, they didn't adjust. But I've already got the X, Y, and Z coordinates now. They're already correct. They're in the correct place. It's just that my X and Y grid are like this. So they're not flat. And I'm like, I just need somebody to give me the little bit of math, because there's a thing you can do when your Cartesian coordinates are off. There's a math thing. And I said it in my post. And it's a math thing. And all you need to do is, multiply X by your grandmother's social security number. And then it comes out just fine. And everything works. So I just need somebody to tell me how to program that math thing into Excel. And poof, we are done. This will be done. In the meantime, we're working on rendering this guy out. And then we're going to work on my script, which doesn't involve this at all. So that's where we'll be. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
It hasn't been as exciting for you.
No,
you haven't had things off by 60 degrees?
No, it's just been irritating.
And here you are with me. I'm just saying.
I got the page done from last night, and I'm actually really happy about that. So
cool.
I'm looking up references right now.
Chuggy chuggy.
Because, they're inside a car, so how do I make a car scene more dynamic to have people talking in without it being a bunch of talking heads?
Right. Yeah, I know that one. All right. 6 billion lines of dialogue here that all need to go bye-bye. Time for me to crunch it down.
Yeah. So how'd you like that IDW news?
Yeah, that one doesn't sound like that's going to be any fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of people online that are like, I'm no longer employed.
I don't know. The more things like that happen, the more I'm glad I'm self-employed.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, the pay is terrible and my boss sucks, but at least
You have
he won't
George.
fire me. He's a freaking slave driver, but he won't fire my butt. Oh, I get to sleep in tomorrow. Somebody doesn't have school tomorrow. Means
Why don't they have school tomorrow? That seems kind of odd.
yeah. It's one of those random days. Professional development, teacher appreciate. I don't know. Something.
Oh, okay.
It's a thing.
One of those days.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were called like in-service training days or
Something.
back.
Whatever's the story, it is tomorrow. And he didn't have to go to school, which is fine by me because that means that I can sleep in until like 8 and still get up and get a shower and get online before 9. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, rub it in. I got it.
no, wait. Let me talk about me crying and no, wait. I gotta think. Damn it! Now I can't think of anything to say. You're like, rub it in. I'm like, yeah. Oh, I can't think of anything. Sarge is already headed for the bed. He's like, I'm here just to say hi and bye. That's pretty much all Sarge is here for. Yeah, I have a problem with auto erect as well.
Whoa.
That's what the blue pills are for, man. I'm just saying. There is the best song out there on YouTube. The autocorrect song is one of my favorite frickin' songs ever. It's a guy who sounds and looks a lot like Elton John, but isn't. And he sings this song, about autocorrect, and every verse, of course, is an auto-corrected word. I'm so sorry that I said duck when I meant, and it's like the whole song's like that. It's like he's like, um, you know, I'm sorry that I said I like to smell your shit when I meant smell your sheets, and it's like the whole song is like, and the end is I blame it all on autoerotica. I mean, auto. It's like and he just tries to say autocorrect over and over and over with all these different translations of autocorrect. The song is beautiful. I highly recommend it. Type in the autocorrect song at YouTube. The man is brilliant. It is a very funny song. It is not safe for work, but it makes me laugh every time. And that's the reason why every time somebody says autocorrect, I say these various versions of autocorrect, because it's the last part of the song where he says, I blame it all on, autoerotica. And then he goes through, auto nomination. And then it's, spectral imagines, and it's like like ninja high school. It's like, where are you getting all of these from? Did it really change to this? Like, he's just off on this like tangent where it's not even close to autocorrect. So anyway, highly recommend you all watch that video because it's so freaking funny, and it cracks me up every time because legitimately autocorrect is like the bane of our existence, especially as Gen Xers. It's like we're like, what are you doing? Please stop.
Yeah.
What's so funny is I've been an English teacher, so I always reread my texts before I send them. And one thing I have noticed is there is a line now where it has auto-corrected a word, but I don't care because I'm going to have to go back and then do the thing you do with your phone where you try to press in the word and it always puts the cursor to the left of the word, then 3 words ahead, then up on the line above it and below it, and then in the middle over there. And it's like, that's too much of a problem for me to change put back to but. And I think you can figure out that I was saying but. So now I'm like, you know what? Send. And I have like a threshold. But when it really does something funny, I leave it in there intentionally. See you tomorrow, Sarge. Have a good evening, my friend. We're on frame 412. And rolling. All right.
It's good enough in this case.
We're getting visited by Cat.
Cat!
Provided Cat did the procedure correctly.
I think she's been doing great this week.
Yeah, but I'm not hearing her. Which means that she may have done it out of order. She was saying something about that the other day, about how she has to do OBS and everything correctly in the correct order.
Okay. She's back.
You have to let her in. I am not over there right now.
Hello. Hey, there you are.
Okay, cool. All right, I got it this time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I hear you.
Okay, weird. Because at first, like my like sound bar wasn't moving, so I wasn't sure what the deal was. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys can hear me though.
Yes.
How's your day going?
Not bad. I've gotten a page inked. I'm getting another one roughed.
Nice. I'm doing a few last minute edits because I realized a few things were inconsistent. Like
Yeah.
I forgot Aros's wrist brace on both times here, and then I realized over here I have him in the wrong shoes.
Yep.
So I gotta fix that. Whoops.
I'm just saying there are definite pluses to having everybody in a uniform.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and I have multiple outfits for Aros. Like when I was doing his character design, I've got multiple like outfits for him because I don't want my characters to like, for whatever reason, like people wearing the same thing every day. That's not a uniform. I always found incredibly weird.
Yeah.
Like, I know why they do it for like to make things easier. So like I know why they do it. But
Well, especially since you're going through it right now, because the reason they go through it is because now you're like, oh crap, he's wearing the wrong shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that way there is no question of like what's right or wrong. So.
Right. And the way I do comics
Mm-hmm.
is very much the way they film movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll do pages 8 through 10 first, and then do page 32, and then come back to page 1 through 4, and then go over to, you know what I mean? Because like I'm all over the place depending on which 3D assets are ready. And so, you know, I that's brutal for me to try to remember who's wearing what. So part of the reason I like uniforms is that reason. It's like less brutal. Hey, look,
I get that.
that thing that says Art Crumb's Manga Stream.
Heh. Arkham's manga. Oh yeah, yep. I got my little overlay, loose, simple overlay up there. So
Starting to think you might be the wisest of the lot of us, because I'm sitting there going, maybe I should do that too.
yeah, I'm trying to like figure out how to set up to be a little bit more professional. And I see a lot of people have these really fancy overlays. I'm like, no, I just want something simple. I want to focus on the art. And then on the right, the reason why I've got that navigator view up is so that I can cut that or crop it to like a TikTok video or YouTube Shorts or something. That way, because I like to rotate my screen, but a lot of people were complaining that when I edit when I rotate, they get dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving so fast. So I have that view that I can just crop out to be a vertical video for like shorts or something. And the way that I do it, it leaves enough space so that if I want to put text underneath it to explain what it is, I can do that and there's still space for the full video. So because the pages themselves aren't 16 by 9. I mean, they're pretty close, but not exactly. So it leaves like just enough space where I can maybe have like a little bar at the bottom and explain what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, the only downside is you can see the margin lines, but they're so faint that you probably won't really notice them that much. So this way I can have both.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of the IDW thing, Kat?
Absolutely tragic. It kind of doesn't super surprise me, only because they've lost so many titles lately. Like they've lost so many IPs, and so like it's not super surprising, but it's just really sad that it's come to that. Let me make sure it's the right. Oh, it's his left. This is left. Okay, that's his. Okay, no, you never mind. You can't see it. I did it on the right hand. I'm right. Yeah, because it's his left hand that has the tattoo, so his left hand has the wrist brace. Okay, I'm good. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, there you go.
But anyway, yeah, it's just tragic all around, honestly. And some of the people that I follow and some of my friends are freelancers now, as they put it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what to make of the stockholder making his son the CEO.
Probably to keep it in the family.
Oh yeah, well that part's very obvious. I'm just not sure. I'm hoping that the guy knows what he's doing.
It's name only. I'm pretty sure it's name only. Because, I mean, there's people above CEOs, right? So, you know, like, just because he's a CEO doesn't mean that he's running everything by himself. I'm sure there's, like, an advisory board and all these other things. You know, chief revenue officers and, like, other sorts of positions that will be probably providing guidance. So I highly doubt. I think it'll be more of a figurehead position, maybe starting out, and eventually he'll run things on his own. But I mean, they just fired a third of their 40%. That's between a third and half, or between a third and half. So like,
I heard 39% of their staff.
Yeah, I just rounded it to 40, because numbers. But yeah, I forgot to switch what page I was on here. Yeah, it's tragic overall, and I feel for my friends.
Yeah, I mean, and there are Star Trek titles in there too that'll probably be dumped, which is likely going to be an issue as well. I mean, I know my priorities are slightly askew, but you know, you're like my friends, and I'm like, and Star Trek.
Well, I mean, yeah, like I care about those titles because they're major IPs. You know, TMNT too. You know, so like there's a lot
big IPs to be going down.
Yeah. Well,
worse, the comics recently have been canonical. They've been actually part of the story, which is not something that Star Trek's really been doing ever. You know, the Star Trek comics were always sort of, well, I mean, you can sort of think that this maybe happened, you know. But, yeah. Terry Metalis really is working hard on that. Just fixing all of the weird stuff. So what do we think is going to happen with IDW?
They'll get picked up I think they'll get acquired by somebody else.
And then we'll just lose IDW all the way around, huh?
I think it'll be more of a merge than an acquisition. Maybe. I think IDW will still exist, personally. I think it'll just exist under somebody else.
That's fair.
Sort of like how they tried to do with Oni Lionforge. I think it'll be something similar to that. Or they'll have... I mean, because like, dropping IPs legally is really hard. Especially something as, like... Because it's in multiple countries, it's going to be a little bit harder to cut that cord.
And some of those are big IPs, so it's not like you can just go, and we're dropping this.
No, because he doesn't have school tomorrow, should I?
No. But I'm not going to be able to deal with him until midnight.
I'm going to tell him the first.
That's fair.
Hey, kiddo. You do not have to put to bed. That sounds like a he's your son before the sun rises or something.
It might be he might be an ex-son by the time the sun rises, depending on if mom kills him or not.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, did something happen?
That was beautifully timed.
You really was.
What trouble did Guy
Nothing
get
at this
into?
point. Really. He's doing fine.
And don't we try not to use his name on air.
Oh,
That's all right.
I'm so sorry.
You didn't know.
You didn't know.
Yeah, but I'm a community person. I should have known better.
You're good.
They're under. I try not to say any of our kids that are under 18 on air. Their names.
That's fair. That's fair. Noted. Erased
Right.
from brain.
It's all good. I mean, you're actually an IRL friend, so you actually have met said child. So that's a real human in you. It's not just an abstract function. So I don't blame you.
Yeah, long time ago, but I do remember.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like since you are an IRL friend, like you do. I don't have any problem with it. It's just, like slips will happen.
It's a
slips will
safety
happen
thing,
all the time, and I'm okay with that. I mean, we just try to minimize it. We're broadcasting 4 hours every day. I've slipped.
Right. I still remember when you were talking, like telling us about the why of the name. I still remember that part too, and that has never left me. That's the only reason I remember. It's a good
totally
reason.
A great reason. It means it works.
It's creative. Let's see here. Okay, I'm almost done with this page. Thank the Lord. I'm so ready to move on from this page. Okay. It's too large. Get rid of that. Yeah. Less is more. Less is more. Aros is about to get his butt kicked. Alright, next page. Woo!
And here I am in this intersection again. Waiting for Bluey to do Bluey's thing. Stop. He doesn't even, because the camera's so far back, he crosses the double yellow twice, but I didn't notice because the camera doesn't see him ever.
Oh.
So I'm like, that's fine. Nobody's going to see it. The kids won't see it either.
But you'll know.
But I'll know. And it might bother me.
I don't know why I have that there. Get all these sketch layers together. Put all the 3D layers in one place. Those are all my references. Mark that red. Oh, that is also references. Mark that red. I'm going to do a little cleanup of this, but...
Oh, that was way too easy. I'm going to start thinking something's wrong. That was so easy.
Oh boy, now I get to do cleanup sketches.
Yay!
Yay!
It's an animation. Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's
wonderful?
It's a bad habit from my animation degrees. You always have the rough, and then you have the clean sketch, and then you can do the line art. It's like, no, brain. You don't need to do that. Stop making yourself do that. But we must.
Gonna leave his brake lights on, man. Brake lights. And he's got to keep blinking that turn signal.
Dun, 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 dun.
Right?
Yeah. Oh man, I've had 2 caffeine pills already today, and I'm still yawning. It is not fair. Why am I tired? Probably from the caffeine pills.
Kind of just saying here.
You know what's really fun about going through and doing these again is there was a couple of things I wanted to do the first time that I didn't have the skill to do. That now it's just like, yeah, there we go. That actually makes more sense now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it finally clicks in your brain. You're like, I can do the thing.
Yeah. Well, like one of the things I skipped over was something as simple as Brig getting into the car. Because I couldn't figure out how to position her body to do it.
I feel that, yeah.
And now that I have a little bit more skill, it's like, oh, I can just do this. That's fine. Or, like, I had kind of a eureka moment with Chapter 5, in which I wanted to do a lot more with this one little logo.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, you know, it'd be neat is I haven't let the scenery of their headquarters breathe. You know, they get there and it's just them talking the entire time. And I haven't let the environment breathe and come to life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something that I notice a lot of creators do is they don't it's not that they don't put enough work into it, it's that they're so focused on the characters that they forget that these characters exist within a space.
Well, and sometimes the space
Is a character, personally.
is a character, but you forget about that character. You know, you're very involved with the story that you forget about crafting what's happening around. Yeah.
Because that's something I notice I do quite a bit. Because I don't that's one of the reasons why I switched to this Marvel method sort of style of script writing. Because I wasn't crafting scenes. What I ended up with was A talking to B, B talking to A talking to B, B talking to A. I effectively
Floating head syndrome, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I effectively had prose with pictures. You know what I mean? And I wasn't crafting the scenes. And I feel so much better doing it the way I'm doing now, even though it's taking slightly longer, because I can now feel it, right? I'll have A talk to B, and then I'll feel that moment of A wanting to look off to the side, or, putting her hands together, or putting her head in her hands, or something. I'll feel that. So then I can just right there and then put a panel where nothing happens. She just puts her head in her hands.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or-
and it's a moment where you can take that beat or whatever.
Or you can have them, they're still talking and give them dialogue, but they're doing things, they're doing actions.
Right.
And like the car scene, one of the things I'm adding came from issue 5. In issue 5, Brig asks another soldier for a cigarette. I went, what would be totally a Brig moment is if she climbs into this person's car, doesn't even ask permission, and just lights up a cigarette right in there.
Oof.
Like, total disrespect for the people around her.
Mm-hmm.
Because she doesn't care about them. And it's that moment where I can characterize her a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got to
particularly,
go ahead.
particularly you, Kat, you would appreciate that considering you also have an asshole character.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. Aros here is a little he is an anti-hero, so he does have like these moments where he's just like a complete prick. And then I have like my villain as well, who's also pretty rude. Ooh, this leg is way too long. I'm gonna put that character up.
I love that. It's such a random, but so appropriate.
Yeah, like that's just like squirrel brain. I can't help it sometimes. Squirrel brain is like, oh wait.
Yeah.
Anyway, one of the things that I'll show you guys this. You guys would probably like this. One of the things that I've been doing is I've been doing consultations with an editor. And she and I haven't like talked to him like a little bit. But what we did is we broke down like my story and the characters and stuff and their goals and all that jazz. And so the first thing, let me find it. I have so many pages here. Okay, this first one. The first thing we did is we figured out who the 4 main characters were. And in my particular story, like actually, let me step back. Let me go back one further. So she says that there's 2 different types of stories. There's plot-driven stories, and then there's like conceptual, thematic-based stories. Plot being like this is what happens. There's a thing, an action, an event that's the primary like motivation or activity within the story that moves it forward. And there's conceptual based stories where there's a concept or a theme or something thematic that the story is about. And mine is more of a theme, and the question that my main character struggles with is, should you do would you do the best thing or the right thing in a situation like that? How do you decide between the right thing and the best thing given any scenario? Because there are times where doing the best thing isn't the right thing, like if you were depending on your perspective, right? And then there's times when doing the right thing is the correct thing to do. Like basically how do you struggle with that? And in my particular story, I've decided that the right thing is the correct choice, because ultimately that's what's best for everybody, is the right thing. But that's just the stance I've taken. I'm not saying that is the correct answer. I'm just saying that's the stance that I've taken on this story. And so this is right here, the slide. This is what my character embraces in the beginning. And as a dynamic character, he changes, right? And so we figured out the 4 main characters: the protagonistic, the antagonistic, the foil character, and the impact character. And then what we've decided is we have like positive theme, meaning like going towards like a good story and a bad story. And so we actually wrote out like how like there's 4 characters again: the protag, the impact character, the antagonistic, and the foil character. The antagonistic character and the impact character are always opposite of each other in regards to the theme. The theme in this case being the truth, which is do the right thing. And then there's Aros, the protagonistic, and his opposite is his foil character or the shadow character. These would be characters like Vegeta or Shishomaru. They're completely opposites in almost every way from the primary characters, and like the themes that they believe in or act on. And so we've kind of basically been working through this sort of story, like structure. It's been really, really interesting. And one of the things we've been able to do is, that's a spoiler. Sorry, spoilers. But
That's okay.
some people don't like them. Some people do. Some people don't mind. But we were able to actually map out each character. Are they a rising character? Are they a static character? Are they a falling character? Are they mix of both? And then kind of go over like what she would like to see as far as me modifying the story to improve it. And one of the things she said is, she's like, I want your bad character to have more opportunities to be evil. And I'm like, oh my god, yes. I was worried it was too much. And she's like, no, it is not near enough. Like, make him really, really, really bad. And I'm like, boy, howdy, do I have some ideas sitting in the chest that I've been waiting to use. So really excited about that. And then Hokoi, which is Aros's opposite, it's everything he should be. They're like, give him more opportunities to mess up. like put him in the frying pan and give him opportunities to either do the right thing or mess up. But always make sure he does the right thing, which is the theme, doing the right. So that way the audience... Ow, I just smashed my ear. That way the audience...
Don't do that.
Yeah, that hurt. That way the audience can sort of go through this journey with Hokoi. And Hokoi sort of, because he and Aros are opposites, he's sort of like the additional main character. Yeah. So this is some of the stuff that we've kind of been doing. Aros thankfully was balanced already. I have changed and added some things. But yeah, sorry, that was a completely random tangent, but that's just some of the structure we've been doing. To sort of...
No, that's a good thing to talk about, because I don't think it's discussed nearly enough.
Yeah.
And like,
that hurt.
Like, that was kind of my point with when I talk about what I don't like about Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad movies, is we never see them at their worst. We know who Harley is, but we've never really had a movie with Harley Quinn in it. We've never had some of these villains that they're suddenly dumping on us and saying, here's Batty McBadton. You should be angry at Batty McBadton. And it's like, you should have spent time building up these villains so that when they're in there, they have more impact. Because at that point, we don't need to have, here's Batty McBad guy. It's, we've seen them do their worst. So now let's see them be creative and still their worst. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's something that people are I don't want to say like afraid to do. I mean, I feel like people, like, especially Western media, and I don't know if you agree with this. I feel like in Western media they focus too much on the what and not the who and why. It's just like, this thing happened, and this thing happened. Here's the conflict that you have to care so much about, and it's like, yeah, but where's the character's will? Where's the character's desire? What does the character want to do? I care more about the character than I care about what happens to the character. If the character is supposed to be what I care about the most, make me care about the character instead of what happens to the character.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why a lot of people like manga more. Is it as a storytelling format, it naturally focuses more on characters because it doesn't have to be plot driven, or it doesn't have to be conflict driven. And Western media relies on a conflict for the most part.
Well, it's still conflict driven, but the conflict can be more.
No, it does not.
complex.
Kishoten Kits does not have to be conflict driven. That's a major part of its original formatting. So no, it does not have to be conflict driven. They can have conflict, but the traditional version of Kishoten Kits does not need a conflict. It's the way that they look at it is it's a surprise, it's a twist, it's just unexpected, and then the last part, the kits, is just the result. It doesn't have to be a resolution, it doesn't have to be a solution, it just has to be, here's what happened afterwards. That's all it is. Unlike in Western media, where usually you have to like solve whatever the conflict is. That's what the climax is. It's either the moment. It's like that moment right where like the confrontation happens or the problem gets solved. Like that's the climax. And in Kishoten Kits, it's not that way. It's just here's something unexpected, and if it does have a conflict, it's usually like the biggest moment in the series. You know, like biggest fight or whatever. So that can exist in Kishoten Kits, but it doesn't have to. Like folk tales in Japanese folklore are a perfect example of this. There's a lot of Japanese folk tales that don't have a solution at the end to whatever the problem was that was introduced. It's just the yokai like got the like he or let's say it's a kitsune or whatever. Like this man went and lived with a kitsune or a yuki-onna forever, but he didn't know it was, and then like. Years later, he comes out and finds that he's not aged and everyone else has, and he has like 50 million children with this Yuki-onna or whatever. Like, you know how Yuki-onna are, like snow women.
Yeah.
Like, there's no there's no technical conflict in that story. I mean, from a Western standpoint, we could, but in like Kishoten Kits, that's just what happened to him. That's just the twist is it wasn't a normal woman. That's the twist, and then he's really.
But see, here's the problem. And I think that part of the problem is that there is a broader definition of conflict. Because I mean, if you talk about conflict as in you must like, you know, I walk into a room and I ask Kayan for a slice of paper and he does not want to give it to me. There's the conflict. You know, and we must resolve the conflict before the scene ends. It becomes a different feel. But if I come into the room and you define the conflict as whatever it is that must happen to the characters in order for the characters to leave this scene, then it could be that I come into the room and Ken tells me that the telephone was ringing and I needed to answer it, and he didn't answer it. That's not a conflict.
Okay, so then I just gave
to go from Kayan to me in order to resolve the scene and close.
Okay,
the scene.
So I just gave a bad example.
Do what?
I said okay, so I just gave a bad example.
You gave a bad example?
Yeah, I gave a bad example of a story with no conflict.
Well, the conflict is. In that definition, the conflict is that the yokai is not what it seems. You can't clear the scene until that's been resolved.
But it does. No, you're not. You aren't understanding. It just has to be an incident that happens. Like,
but it doesn't have to necessarily be a problem that needs to be solved. It's just here's something that happened, but that doesn't necessarily make it a conflict.
Right. That's what I was saying. I think we use the term conflict, and it's not a good term.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm trying to say is we use the term conflict, but it isn't really. It's what is it? The goal. The goal is a better one. Whenever I see scene cycles, the scene cycle says, what is it? It says character goal, then either disaster, and then character goal, and then resolution. Those terms are misnomers.
Oh yeah, but that's what I'm saying is
the disaster could be that can't remember where we put the phone. That's not actually like the world has come to an abrupt and meaningless end. It just means that you're adding a little bit of complication to the scene.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop remote viewing my house because that's creeping me out.
But I mean, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I think that the term conflict is a misnomer. Because I've been thinking about that too. Star Trek had a very specific, Next Gen and the original series had a very specific no internal conflict rule. Like Riker couldn't fight Picard, and Picard could not fight Data. That was very explicit. And it took them until Roddenberry literally stepped away for them to allow that to happen. But the problem was that but they still had stories that were going on between the characters. Things were still happening between the characters. Things were proceeding, even though they were not allowed to literally conflict. So I think that that's just a misnomer. I think that we misuse that term. Because I think it's like you have a goal resolution.
But no, that's not. That in the 3 story structure, there is it defines conflict as confrontation.
Yeah,
it doesn't necessarily. But that's what I'm saying. In the way it's traditionally set up, it had in Western in the 3 act, it has to be a confrontation or opposing of some sort. That's what I was taught that the 3 story
opposition.
Yeah, it has to be an opposition of some kind. That's what I was taught in my writing and story classes, is that it has to be in a specific opposition. And in Kishoten Kids, that's not the case. It doesn't have to be an opposition either of ideals, forces of nature, of people, whatever. Internal, external, whatever. There's no necessary opposition. It's just, and I think that that's why certain people because I'm talking in the context of the average person. The average person, when they think of conflict, that's the kind of stuff they're going to think of.
Oh, sure.
We know better.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't think that stories can be told without conflict, whatever that definition is.
And we're saying the same thing.
I agree, yeah.
That, in Star Trek, they believe, many of the actors believe, that they needed conflict to propel story. Because of what you're saying. But they still made episodes of Star Trek when there were rules of no conflict. Because I think Roddenberry had a different concept of it. Because I think you're right. I mean, obviously, if you had a television show which started with Bob going out and fishing for fish, and you just sat there and watched him fish for 1 hour, you'd be like, okay, there's something missing. Clearly there's something missing here. We need something more than just Bob fishing for 1 hour. So you need a goal. He either needs to catch the blue fish, or he needs to tell his kid this very important story about his grandpa, or you know what I mean? There's got to be a thing for him. And I like the term goal better, because it's more like you don't have a scene if it doesn't have a goal, because you have a reason you entered the scene and you have a reason to exit the scene. And I think that, like I said, I feel like the word conflict makes people believe you have to have Riker fight Picard
Yeah.
in order for the scene to exist.
Yeah.
They have to oppose each other.
And that's not true.
Right. Whereas the scene could be Riker telling Picard that the engines are at 97% efficiency. That's the goal of the scene. There's no opposition here. Nothing's wrong with it. It's totally acceptable. I do feel like, though, you need, like, because you're talking about a twist. I feel like when you exit one of the acts, you do need something.
What do
Because
you
I
mean?
agree with that. You need something more than just. You need the dun 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 moment, and I don't know what it's called.
I feel like that's a matter of personal taste, honestly.
Probably.
Like, I feel like for the average person, yeah, they're gonna need those things. But I feel like just to play devil's advocate, because I love playing devil's advocate. Like,
It's all good.
Like, you don't have to have that to make a story. Now, is it a good story? That's debatable. But I feel like for people to make stories, they shouldn't feel obligated. Oh, I have to write for how the average person wants to read. Like,
No. And
there's that too. Now, is it going to be considered a good story, or like something that a lot of people are going to want to read? Probably not. But I feel like we as a society are so used to reading stories in a specific format that if we see something that's why I think a lot of people don't like folk tales. They don't like folk stories. They don't like mythology. They consider it boring because it doesn't fit the norm of like, ooh, wham bam fighting, this is what happened. There's greater concepts. They're more thematic in nature than like super exciting, exhilarating stories.
So
and that's my
I
theory.
feel like I misrepresented myself a little there. And let me exemplify here with my layouts, right? Coming up on page 19, which is actually really the 16th page, that's a splash, right? So whichever way this goes, I want something right here at the edge of page 18 that makes people want to come back for the next part if it's split up into two sections that ends up being over 2 months. So let's say that you and Kane and I all decide to make an anthology, and we're going to take all three of our comics but only run them 16 pages at a time. Right? You need something here. The goal of this scene needs to be something that makes people go, huh, because you want them to come back.
Right, but you have a completely different type of story with a completely different purpose.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I think that if you are building something like this, you do want something that makes them a question. You want a question here.
Yeah, I'm more talking about like the shorter one-shots, like, because most folktales are really short. They're short stories. They're sometimes just prose, sometimes a paragraph. Like that's more what I was talking about. Like these shorter stories that are just did blank. Like blank went to the grocery store. Blank went to buy eggs. There were only goose eggs available. They went home.
Right.
Like
I mean,
the
like,
twist
that sounds
is
like this guy.
Yeah, like the twist was, there was only goose eggs, so it wasn't the typical egg, and the egg is like ginormous compared to a chicken egg or whatever. Like that's the twist. That's Quixote's hits. There's no conflict there. It's just, it's a different type of egg. Okay, whatever. Move on with my life.
Right. Well, and that's
like,
what I was saying. That's what I was saying. I think that the misnomer is the word conflict.
Oh yeah.
Because you have a goal. Your goal is to get eggs. You go to the store. There's only goose eggs. You have to make a decision. Do you want goose eggs or not? You decide you do, because goose eggs are still better than nothing. So you decide to get the goose eggs. That's a story. There is a goal, and even in that one, that has the classic has the classic second act complication. Because the traditional story setup says first act is tell you what the story is, second act is complicate that, third act is resolve it. So Your
Yep.
first act is go to the store to get eggs. Second act is there are no eggs, only goose eggs. Third act is decide to get the goose eggs and go home. So it's still there. And I think that's what I'm saying is I feel like the word conflict is not appropriate because to me, by traditional things, there are no goose eggs. That's the conflict. But that's not a traditional conflict. It's not like he was beating up the eggs and the eggs are like growing little hands and trying to punch him back.
Yeah.
Although that would be a cool ass
I'm
story.
I'm on board with this plan if somebody wants to put that down. The goose eggs that fought back next time on Fox.
A man fist just pops out of the egg and just starts punching
Wailing
the
on
guy.
a guy. No, yeah, I feel like that's something that I had to learn because you are absolutely right. It's like the way that society says it, they use the word conflict and then teacher to student, that becomes more rigid as conflict. And then you have to unlearn that.
Yeah.
Conflict could be they don't have eggs, you need to get goose eggs. Like
Yeah.
that's
Or
all
it could be that you bought the wrong carton of eggs.
right.
And you don't find out until you get home. And it's like, oh, that would be the 10. And then the resolution would be you make like a ginormous ass omelet instead of a regular size one.
Right.
There's no conflict there.
Buy
It's just,
an
oops, I got the wrong one. Like it's funny,
Right.
it's laughable, But yeah, no, I definitely agree that it's something that we especially as a Western culture have been taught that there has to be a conflict for everything.
Right.
And it's like, no.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is like
And I'm agreeing with you.
Instead of saying no, I would say that it should be goal, not conflict. Because if you were to tell me that goose egg thing, I would say the conflict is, can you get eggs or not? You know what I mean? Like that's the conflict, so to speak.
I think you're looking for a conflict, though.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's because the term is a misnomer. Hey, Neon, the term is incorrect. And so, because it shouldn't be conflict, but I mean, if you were to say, okay, in traditional words, guy, how do you define this story? There's no conflict here.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, there is. Can you get the eggs or not? That's the conflict. It's just that it's not, like I said, the eggs aren't sprouting arms and punching people. That's the conflict. Because the story is, did he do the job or didn't he?
Right,
That's
right.
the story. So that's your conflict, if you will. That's why I like the term goal better. Because
I'm just using the technical terms.
Yeah, I know. But that's why I like the term goal better because
That makes sense.
It indicates more that the character had a goal. What's the goal of the character in the scene? He needs to get eggs. So he needs to accomplish that by the close of the scene, right? Or maybe, as we were talking before, he needs to make an omelet, right?
Yeah.
Because you were saying he gets goose eggs, or he has the wrong eggs. So he the goal is to make an omelet. He needs to go to the store. The store doesn't have chicken eggs; they have goose eggs. He decides that goose eggs are acceptable. Now the story is resolved. He goes home and makes his omelet. But you have a goal, which would be the conflict in traditional parlance.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just, I think it's just a misnomer because even in American style comics, you can still make those stories. They still work. And as a great example, all these stories that Usagi Yojimbo is done, that's Stan Sakai going through traditional Japanese samurai tales. And they all are like traditional Japanese stories. Like the whole resolution is that, Usagi Yojimbo finally gets to take his nap. It's like, that's the whole point. He wants to take a nap. And that was it. And that
I am but a simple man. I just want to nap.
He just wants a nap.
Yeah.
And like the story is all about like, what happens on the way to getting to his nap, and it's not complicated. There's no conflict. Nobody was actually upset. He had to fix this wagon's tire. And then after he fixed the wagon's tire, he found out that there wasn't a pillow. So he had to go get a pillow. And, you know, I mean, like, none of it's a conflict in the traditional sense. It's all that wandering, meandering storytelling of he just wanted a nap, you know. And part of it is that the act 2, where everything gets more complicated, is he's frustrated because he's tired. You know?
Yeah. I
That's
would
all
be too at that point.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying. You wouldn't really. Neon's asking about that specifically. If a main character doesn't have a want in the beginning of the story, is that bad? And I was like, no, I don't think that's necessarily bad, because the story could propel itself. Like, most of the stories that I have in Bellatrix Rising are going to be self-propelled. You know, the characters are tootling along, living their lives when poof, something happens. Because it's a Star Trek-esque story. So they're, you know, the Enterprise is flying through space. They come to planet 123 XYZ, and all of a sudden there's a thing there that they have to run into. You know. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a want. But what Kat and I were discussing was the term conflict, which we both think is inappropriate, because it's not the correct word for stories. It doesn't allow for the fine granulation of it. And I prefer the word goal. And either the story has a goal and the characters are along for the ride, or the characters have a goal.
That's why I brought up the idea that you can have a plot narrative driven story, like this is the goal, or you can have a thematic story. They're different.
Yeah.
And you can have a mix of both, but a thematic story doesn't necessarily need to have a goal in mind.
Exactly.
So yeah, and so that's more what I was trying to get at, is those sorts of, like, in my story, I gave characters goals to be able to move it along. But the overall overarching story is more thematic in nature, because it's basically asking I'm hoping it forces my readers to ask themselves questions about how my characters are. Sorry, I just realized I was drawing all the way over there. To ask, like, about my characters and how they act and how they do things, and like oh, would I do that, or how would I handle the situation? That's more what I want God's Bane to be about than, oh, this happened to X character, or this happened to X character, and X character did that. It's my characters are trying to answer this question in themselves, rather than, like, this is the specific, like, Aros does have a goal. He's a main character, so I kind of, like, tried to find a middle ground between the two. But ultimately, my story is more thematic in nature than, like, goal-oriented.
Sure. And then,
which is also perfectly acceptable.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, like,
It's
I wasn't
like,
trying to.
and-
I didn't think you guys were arguing, saying that it wasn't. A lot of people that have, and they're
Sure.
like, oh, well, that sounds really boring, and I'm like, well, that's.
I mean,
because...
usually, you know, I'm loath to throw shade on my beloved Star Trek, but I think that that's what the producers and actors missed. Because they believe that the heart of drama is conflict, which is something that we say all the time. The heart of drama is conflict. And I feel like you're right. The problem with that, of course, is you're implying that someone must be versus. In fact, our rigs are set up that way, right? You're writing either person versus person, person versus themselves, person versus nature, right? So you're, you know, those are your core concepts for making a story.
But do they have to be used that way?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying, is like
I agree. Yeah, I'm just emphasizing it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, we make it sound like they have to fight, right? They have to struggle. And some of it is Western culture. We love a good struggle.
Yeah.
You know, we love to see the underdog win, especially in America. That is definitely one of our ongoing things, is that we love to watch the underdog make it, you know.
Yeah.
That's always been a thing. So, I mean, that's kind of
I think shonen does so well here versus something like shoujo or shonen or seinen or josei. Is those stories tend to be less about that kind of thing. I mean, there are some that are like Yona of the Dawn or Red River, whatever. But like shonen is very the classic shonen that we think of with especially things like Jump or Shonen Sunday, basically anything Shueisha.
Mhm.
Is very for the most. I know Shueisha is very diverse, but the typical things that people think of are very like, I have to beat this bad guy and save the world or save my friends, or like that's, or I have this adventure I have to go on, and it's very formatty feeling. So
Yeah.
I think that's
Oh,
why
yeah,
it's
I
so
agree.
popular. Yeah. Let's see. Neon said, "Gotcha. I struggle with that. I feel like the best stories can be so versatile, and I feel like I feel like the little bits that develop your characters naturally is better than the story arc." Yeah, that was one thing that I always got really mad at is people shit on filler.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dude, filler like is literally filling out the characters. Like it adds depth to the characters. It's bonus. Why are you complaining about stories? Like,
Right. And
why?
I
Because
also feel like, oh, I'm sorry.
because in some cases, and what was it? Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
When they caught up to the manga, not in Brotherhood, in Full Metal Alchemist,
Yeah, the original anime.
it was so full of filler that it went in a totally different direction than the story.
Well, see, there's filler that replaces the story and changes the story, and then there's filler that doesn't affect the storyline but adds depth to the characters. That to me is the proper way to handle filler. It's just
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and that oh, I will never forgive them for what they did to Inuyasha and FMA. I will never forgive them for it.
And for
Tell us how you really feel, Kat.
yeah, for MHA, like
I'm still mad.
like the movies for MHA, they're all considered canon. They're filler stories. But if you watch it, Horikoshi has come out and said, no, these are canon for the manga.
You're not wrong, Neon.
Like
Shishomaru is bae.
Treat them as if they are part of the manga.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it works.
Mhm.
Yep, definitely agree. If you just treat it like it's canon, then people won't hate it.
Right.
Please tell me, Neon, you've been reading Yashahime. Which is canon, by the way. Please tell me you've been reading Yashahime. Some people got...
Neon?
Huh?
You're talking to Neon, yeah?
Yeah, Neon.
Uh-huh.
So Yashahime is... The character design was done by Rumiko, but the writing is done by one of her like proteges, Takashi Shiina. So there was an anime of Yashahime. Yashahime, it's the sequel to Inuyasha.
Right. That's the princes of Yashu.
Yeah. And so it's Shishomaru's kids and Inuyasha's kid. Shishomaru has two. Yeah. The anime came out like 2 years ago. Okay, so I will tell you, because I've already watched the full anime, and I've been reading the manga. Please read the manga. The manga is canon. The anime, they basically pulled the Full Metal Alchemist, and they just
roughly stuck to the story, but then took it off in a completely different direction. So if you want the canon, you need to read the manga, and there's at least 2 books out in English. I'm not sure if the 3rd one is out yet. I need to go double check. But there's 2 volumes out there for you at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, it's. I keep thinking about this, and I'm like, so Rumiko does this thing, right? She writes 1 billion issues of everything, and now she's writing 1 billion issues of everything, and all of her proteges are writing 1 billion issues of everything.
Right.
Like,
The
Rumik universe, the Rumik world will take over like a quadrant,
right,
of all manga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still don't know if Rumiko. I don't think she sleeps. I think she just.
I don't think she does.
She just turns off for a couple of hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with Rin and Sesshomaru, the way that they set up their relationship is Rin asked him. She basically was like, "Hey, I would like to be with you." Like Rin approached him is how they arranged that. And it's really cute because you get to see how Jockin changes his attitude towards her, like because suddenly now like she's his master too. He's really polite to her now because he has to be, but it's adorable. Sesshomaru has 2 daughters, and then Inuyasha and Kagome have a daughter as well. So that's why it's Yashahime. There's 3 girls. It's a really good story. I absolutely love the new art by Shina, or sorry, Takashi. It's really, really nice, honestly. I mean, it is a little strange that he hung out with her a lot as a guardian, and now they have a relationship. But honestly, let's think about the time period this is set in. Let's be honest with ourselves. That probably wasn't that unusual.
It wasn't. And Neon, that's a Rule 34 thing. Don't go to DeviantArt.
Yeah, right. And it's sad that DeviantArt has become that way.
It really is, because I was actually posting a lot of stuff on DeviantArt back in the early 2000s, and it was a great place for me to put my work. And now it's all headed out to Rule 34.
Yeah, that's what yeah.
And AI harvesting.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, the AI is so prevalent there. It's everywhere. It's really, really hard to sort out what's AI and what's not. So since I still have the link for storage management, I just threw everything in storage. Rather than deleting everything, I just threw everything in storage, which I know doesn't protect it, but if I ever decide to go back, at least it'll be there for me. And I had over almost 3,000 deviations I had to store. Do you know how long it took me to do that?
A long ass time.
Yeah. So I have I have my link to God's Bane there. That's about it. But yeah, definitely the first 2 volumes should be just about anywhere. I find them in Books A Million and Barnes & Noble here, so they should be available. I think they're up to volume 4 in the Japanese version, though.
And if you can get it, get Meizan Ikoku.
Yes, that's a good one, too.
Oh, man. Meizan Ikoku makes me cry every time. It is one of my favorite manga of all time. It is the bestest thing ever. And it's exactly really what you're talking about. It is about 6 people that live in an apartment complex. And that's it. That's all. I mean, yes, the manager that takes over is a widow, and a slow brewing relationship happens between her and one of the other tenants of the apartment complex.
It's very Rumiko-esque.
Yeah, that's it. There's no, I mean, you get all the classic Rumiko complexities. Anything that's in Rumik world, you end up with all these radically weird characters that are part of the humor, and there you go. But part of the humor and is that adds such depth and tenderness to the entire story. And it's the first time that I actually read a manga and I just sat at the end just with tears rolling down my face going, but I don't want it to end.
Yeah.
Trying to remember which one that was for me. Probably Yu Yu Hakusho. Oh, Wolf's Rain. Wolf's Rain was the first one I actually cried at the end.
Wolf's Rain.
Mhm.
Wolf's Rain's brutal.
Yu Yu Hakusho, I was pretty sad at the end. I think I cried. But Wolf's Rain, I definitely did.
Yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho is definitely a story. I don't know. Okay, so
I like how you added the intonation at the end.
well, okay, so Yu Yu Hakusho was playing at the anime club that I went to in the 90s.
Yeah.
So in the early 90s, I was going to this group called Denver Anime International.
Mm-hmm.
And we got together in the basement of this bank. And this was like 1991. So I'm not kidding, like right at the beginning of the 90s. And we were all getting together, and what they were doing at the time was importing videotapes from Japan. Because they had a couple of guys who were over there recording everything off of TV. And then mailing the videotapes back. So we had, a 2-month or 3-month delay, depending on how long it took to get the tapes back.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, so we went through this whole thing where we were doing the tapes thing, and that was great. And Yu Yu Hakusho was one of those series. So what they would do is they had like 6 or 7 series that they were running congruently. So they would, like, for example, the first show would be Ranma, the second show would be Yu Yu Hakusho, the third show would be an episode of the Dirty Pero AVs, the fourth show, and every month they would just show the next episode down. And when one series ran out, they would replace it with a new series and then start with the episode 1 of that series. Seriously, most hated manga of all time. Urotsuki Doji? Or is that just me?
That's me.
Wait, what?
Neon was
hated
asking
manga of
what's
all
the
time?
most hated manga of all time.
Oh, like what? What is it? Oh. What was your answer?
Oh, I said Urotsuki Doji
Oh.
because it's tentacle porn, and
Yeah.
the manga is worse than the anime, and the anime was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know what that was, and
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you guys have all seen Atlantis, the Disney Atlantis, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, because I haven't seen that one yet, so I don't have the context for how bad it is.
Okay, so Atlantis is one of the best written of all of those.
Sorry,
Disney...
I meant the anime you're talking about. I've seen Atlantis.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know that
Sorry.
scene where he hands out the black or the come on, guy, blindfolds. He hands out the blindfolds as everybody's going to bed, and he goes, "You don't want to see it. I've seen it, and I didn't want to see it. You don't want to see it."
No. Well, that's a correct.
That's the way I feel about Urotsuki Doji.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it. I've seen it. I didn't want to see it. You don't want to see it. Trust me. Just don't bother. Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like early on, I knew that there was something different about anime, but I entered in on Voltron and Macross, Robotech and Voltron. So I came in from the point of view of Dairuger 15 and Go Lion, which are Voltron's 2 different forms. They became one series. And then I came in from Macross and Southern Cross and Genesis Climber Most Piata, which is what makes up Robotech. So for me, I was like, this is great. It's full of spaceships. It's full of robots. I'm into all of this. There's nothing wrong here at all. Then I got full anime, and then I got into Ranma and all of that stuff. And I was like, this is even better. Then somebody showed Urotsuki Doji, and we had tentacle porn all of a sudden. And I'm like, you know what? I could have lived my entire life without this. So anyway, what's your thought for most hated manga? So Neon, are you asking like in the Zeitgeist what is the most hated manga, or are you asking like us individually? What's the most hated manga that we individually hate? Because there's entire groups of manga that I don't like that other people really love.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't have enough spaceships and robots for me. You know? Like, so like I've got like individually, okay.
Oh, individually, okay.
So God, I've read so much manga. Like, which ones were the ones that I actually like bailed on?
Are we doing
The ones we hate individually.
comics or anime?
Comics, that's the manga.
The manga.
Yeah.
Okay, I have it.
What you got?
Haibane Renmei.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Now,
Really? I had a real problem with Ray Earth. Of all
Really?
things. The Ray
Of
Earth
all
manga.
things.
Of all things, I just could not make it through Ray Earth.
Yeah, that's a little surprising, honestly.
Because everything else Clamp makes is wonderful. And I absolutely love everything else Clamp makes. I had a real problem with Ray Earth. That was so weird.
That is weird.
So the pacing was strange. And I mean, this is the same thing as like X 1999 kept me glued to it.
Yeah.
I read every page of X, and all of X was like a big deal. But yeah, Ray Earth, I've tried. It's like the Lord of the Rings of manga for me. I've tried reading the Lord of the Rings like 200 times in my life. And I keep making it to Tom Bombadil and then just like petering out and losing focus. You know, it's like, so it's not like I hated it. I love the artwork. I always love the stuff that Clamp does. Clamp specifically is a great team, and their artwork is beautiful. But yeah. Ray Earth was a problem child for me. I'm sure I have read one or two junk manga that, you know, was some. Oh, Slam Dunk.
Really? That's interesting.
I just never got Slam Dunk.
Uh-huh.
Or for that matter, What's Michael? What's Michael is also kind of one that I've had intermittent. I didn't get it. Crayon Shin-chan was a difficult manga to read until I went and lived in Japan. Then Crayon Shin-chan was much easier to understand.
Honestly, I watched Crayon Shin-chan, so I don't know how accurate it is, but I really liked it.
Doraemon, same thing.
I haven't read that one yet, but it's on my list. Everyone says it's a really good manga for studying Japanese, so I definitely want to at some point read it.
Ooh, you know what's also a good manga for studying?
Yotsuba.
Yotsuba.
Everyone says Yotsuba. Everyone's like, "How you doing Yotsuba?" I'm like, "I know. I'm waiting for money to buy the books."
But there's a zillion of them, and you'll understand when I say she has a small thermonuclear reactor in her running her. There's no other explanation.
Yeah.
Just saying. No, Cheese Sweet Home.
I've heard it's adorable.
Cheese Sweet Home.
Yes, I would love to read that one. I've seen some of the art from
adore
it.
Cheese Sweet Home.
It looks so cute.
It's so cute. It's so disgustingly cute. But
okay, cool. I'll definitely make it.
When Chi speaks, because Chi is a kitten, when Chi speaks in her head, she uses baby talk.
Oh.
Which is very accessible.
Good.
You know.
Good. My toddler Japanese brain needs accessible.
Right? You know, she'll say tabe chai, you know, which is I want to eat.
Tabe chai, yeah.
Tabe chai.
Chai.
They put
because it's baby
CHs. They put CHs in. Babies have a hard time with that hard T, so they'll say tabe chai.
Oh, okay.
So it's baby.
That would probably confuse the frick out of me, like without the context.
You'll get it. Every time they write it, it's in katakana.
Oh, okay.
So it's not in kanji. It's in katakana and so just sound it out, and you'll go, oh, and you'll get it by context.
Mm-hmm.
But moreover, you'll get a simplified Japanese from the people because they're talking to a kitten. So the humans in the story are like, chi, oide, 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 and you get like what that means now. It means come here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's not a term that you use normally. I wouldn't say, cat
To another
oide.
person.
Right. That would be rude. So I wouldn't say cat oide.
Oh man, I need to add this to my wish list in Amazon.
Right? Oh man, I love reading Chi. It's so easy.
I've seen the art from it, and it looks so
It's beautiful.
cute.
It's so cute. And it's exactly what we were just talking about. Chi is exactly what started this whole conversation.
Yeah.
All of the episodes are simple. Like Chi just wants to figure out how to get the goldfish. And doesn't succeed naturally because you don't want the goldfish to die. So,
yeah.
The boy will come in at some point and just stop Chi from getting the goldfish, and the story's now over.
Right.
The goal was Chi wants the goldfish. So he spends time trying to get onto the couch. He spends time trying to get onto the table. He spends time doing this. Then the boy comes in and grabs him and takes him away. Or takes her away, because I think she's a she.
Yeah,
and that's it.
She.
That's the story.
That's adorbs.
Right? And that's exactly what you were just talking about, which is there's no conflict. And it doesn't even end with the resolution of the goal.
Mm-hmm.
It ends with a failure of the resolution of the goal, which means the story was about, can Chi get the goldfish or not? And the answer is no.
Right.
That's the resolution.
So cute.
There you go. I love that. I love Chi. It's a beautiful thing. And the anime is adorable too. And the anime is very bite-sized. Like, I think each episode is 7 minutes, maybe 8. I think. So it's like, they're really accessible. Now I have run out of things to say.
No, you're good. I'm just trying to focus on Aros getting a kick to the face.
Right? Speaking of conflict.
Right? He's gonna get the tar beat out of him.
I did see my wife walk in here and then walk back out just a little while ago, which means she's not sleeping very well, which is not good.
I don't even know what my most hated movie. I can tell you which ones I didn't enjoy reading.
Well, that's what I think. That's what I think she's after when Neon's saying that. That's what I think that's the point. Because of course I don't hate any manga, but I don't really hate things.
Yeah,
like
I'm
there's
really,
no.
Yeah.
That's not a pretty. I mean, just me personally, I'm like, For me, it's either something I really like or it's okay. So, Slam Dunk is okay.
Mm-hmm. So the manga that I started and couldn't finish, just because I didn't like the story. Actually, I feel really bad because I know a lot of them are really popular. I could not finish Attack on Titan. I think I couldn't even finish the first volume.
Wow.
One Piece, I couldn't. I got to chapter 3 and then I had to stop.
Well, to be fair, nobody will finish One Piece.
Well, I started it forever ago. It's the art style. It has nothing to do the story scene, but I cannot stand the art style. Like the new stuff or the old stuff, I don't like it. And so for me, the visual experience is ruined, and so let me reading it. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has the same problem for me. I don't like the visual style. The story seems pretty neat, but it's very Chosen One-y, and I do not like Chosen One stories. Or Fate, Destiny, I am the special chosen one because I have a special birthmark on my back. Congratulations. I don't care.
Merry birthmark.
Yeah, like I just don't care about that kind of stuff. Plus I don't like the visuals at all. But like I said, his storytelling is neat, and I've kind of like kept up with the story through like summaries and like reviewers and stuff, but I just don't like the visuals. Bleach, hated Bleach, did not like it at all. I did not like Bleach. I don't even think I finished chapter 1. And my friends, when like, and this was when it was really popular, like back in like the mid or late 2000s,
Right.
when it was really getting popular. All my friends were like, oh my god, Kat, you gotta read Bleach, and like I tried it, and I'm like, no, no. Those are probably the ones that I enjoyed the least. The only manga that I hate is Wolf's Rain. It's shit compared to the anime. I don't know which one came first. But it's a completely different storyline. I don't know which one is technically canon. Or if it just never got finished or what, but it's 2 books. It's 2 volumes. They took the whole story and fit it into 2 volumes, and they cut out everything.
Yeah, I think there's definitely I don't like any Macross manga that was not written by Haruhiko Mikimoto.
Yeah. Because
all of them feel like knockoffs, except for Mikimoto's. Yeah. And Mikimoto, they keep having to shovel money to him to make him draw because he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's pulling teeth to get a new manga out of him all the time. And that's a shame because he's my master. That's if you say what art style inspired you to be who you are and what your art goes for, it's Mikimoto.
Yeah.
And so it bums me out that I can't get more out of that guy. But he doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do manga. He wants to do character design like he did with Macross. And so, but every time some other artist goes in there and tries to do it, it just always feels flat and like a knockoff, which makes me think Mikimoto has some kind of control over the story, because it always seems like they can't go too far. They can't push it, So only Mikimoto can change the story, and only Mikimoto can alter the timelines. And so it feels like that. But speaking of art versus dichotomy, I had a real problem early on with Leiji Matsumoto, who did Harlock and Galaxy Express 39 and Yamato and all of those, because I came in from the anime, and his art style is rough, very rough. But the stories, I wanted to read more about, what happened.
Like Togashi level rough?
Pretty close.
See, I love that. I love Togashi's work. If I had to pick one person I want to emulate, it's early era Togashi.
Right.
Or more like middle towards end of Yu Yu Hakusho style, where it's like really grainy. And I know that's when he was ill, so I feel bad saying that that's the style I hate. But I like that roughness. I love the roughness, which is funny. I don't use high contrast work like he does, but I love the way that he does the roughness, but I also love the way that Miura does contrast and detail, because he's almost like the Bernie Wrightson of manga. And so like the 2 styles completely conflict because one's minimal and one's not, and I'm trying to find that like perfect middle ground between Miura and Togashi. It's like they're opposites basically, and so I'm trying to find that perfect middle ground. And
Right. Like here's a great example of what I'm talking about with Leiji Matsumoto. Right.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yep.
It's not horrible, but it feels inelegant. I mean, like her face is really flat, and like his characters that are not Harlock or
So are you
Lamine.
more of like a Shinichi Sakamoto person?
I'm sorry.
Like Rose of Versailles? Like, do you
Yeah.
like that kind of elegant?
Yes. Like, well, there's two kinds of elegance that I really like.
Mhm.
Like, for example, Mikimoto is a great example of elegance that I really like. Let's see here. Macross, the first.
Or like Murata level elegant?
Sort of, yeah. I mean, like, here, I'll let me see if I can get this up on the screen here. Takes me a second.
I'm so sorry, Aros, but you deserve to suffer.
Here we go. Like, this is Haruhiko Mikimoto. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I wish it wouldn't do the strip there. But that, to me, is really elegant ink work, really
It's
elegant,
soft. Mm-hmm.
very, very, I mean, like, here's his watercolors, super elegant, super nice. His mecha,
Yeah.
butt.
It's almost Miyazaki-esque in its softness.
Right. I mean, like,
Mm-hmm.
The mecha. I mean, like, all these mecha here, and all the characters are so detailed, and everything is so elegant,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's always been sort of one of the things that I strive for, is this style. I don't get near it, but I strive for it. I once met Mikimoto. He was very, very nice. He was very, very cool to be, and it was very funny. And I said my 3 words of Japanese that I knew at the time. And I can't close this now because I managed to park it. There we go. Right up there in the top. So anyway, yeah, that's what I kind of mean by elegant and nicely formed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you did get to meet him?
Yeah, I got to meet him at Anime Expo in 2000.
Oh, that's super dope.
2001. Yeah. We actually went all the way frickin' out to LA for that. Just because he doesn't come over here.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A lot of people, when the Attack on Titan creator came over, like they bought last minute tickets just for him.
Mm-hmm.
Which was amazing because you don't get a lot of Japanese mangaka that come here.
No, and we keep talking about the mystical Miyazaki visit that will never happen at NDK because there's no way. He doesn't ever come over here. He doesn't want to be over here. He doesn't even like America that much,
I don't really blame him.
But well, it is what it is.
Yeah, it has its faults.
We have our pluses and our minuses. Having lived in Japan, though, there are some definite minuses there too.
I bet. It's not a perfect place that people imagine it. Like, and that was one of the things we talked about in like my Japanese class is like she gets students who are like, Japan is amazing, and I'm gonna live there, and it's like this anime heaven, blah 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 blah. And she gets like these students that she clearly sees are a complete otaku in the negative sense, and they have this fantasy idea of what Japan is, and she's like, I always hate like having to tell them that it's not. It's not this, it's not that, and the language is difficult, and like going there as like a gaijin, like you're never going to
you'll never be
ever.
I've got buddies who literally married Japanese people and they are still considered out foreigners. They speak fluently, like fluently. They do everything perfect. They follow every piece of etiquette, and they're still completely treated like foreigners. And the thing that sucks is it's not racism like you think it is, like the way it is here. It's patronizing, Like, these people have
Hmm.
been living in Japan now for 25 years, so a quarter century, and people will still try to explain to them how chopsticks work.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was one of the examples
Yeah.
my friend used. Is like there like someone was like clapped and praised her because she could use
Yeah.
chopsticks, and she's like, I've been using these since I was like a young person. She's half
Right.
she's half Japanese, and so like she was raised in that culture in
Mhm.
America, but like she's fully educated on it. And when she moved to Japan, people treated her like a foreigner, even though she's half Japanese. Her family like she's like they were treating me like a foreigner, even though I'm half Japanese, and I guess she's like, if I'm half Japanese, I might as well be no Japanese.
That's part of it. Every time I got into a conflict with my teachers over how we should have taught a class, it was always, it's okay, you don't understand how Japanese classrooms are run. I'm like, I've been here for 3 years. I know exactly how you run your classrooms. And trust me when I say, we tried this in the US in the 50s, and it don't work. And this is why Korea is kicking your butt. And that's literally what I said. And it was,
wow.
because I was over her. I had this particular teacher. She was so young. She was straight out of university, and she was super young. And I conflicted with her so hard all the time, because it was always this. It was, this isn't what they taught me in university, so we're not going to do it. And I'm like, okay, but rote memorization, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? And the thing is that she spoke really good English. And I'm like, look, you didn't learn English by rote memorization. So why expect
Why make your kids do it?
kids would do this?
Yeah.
And really, it was what she was trying to say and not saying was, we're a podunk school in the middle of nowhere. Their only hope for getting any kind of good college is to have a freak accident and move to Tokyo. So all of the kids that are here are really just treading water in English. We're just following what the requirements are by the national guidelines. Therefore, don't stress out about it. And I'm sitting here as an American going, if you give them English, they can go to America. So they can get out of the rut that they're in. And I couldn't convey that to her. I could convey that to my second year teacher. He was really cool. He and I, we were a team. We were together, man. But she and I conflicted so hard. And I was saying stuff like that to her in Japanese, because I was like, look, you're not getting my nuance here. Let me say it in Japanese for you so that you will get what I'm trying to say. And I was being like super blunt about stuff. It was really because I was tired of her. She interfered all the time. She messed up what I was doing. And since I technically was the lowest ranking teacher and would always be so, because ALTs are never considered full teachers.
Yeah.
She came into the school, and I had been there for 3 years.
Yeah.
She joined the school at that point. I'm like, dude, you don't understand how this high school or this junior high works. You don't even know. Because every school's got a different personality, you know?
Yeah.
Even in Japan. So rough. Still mad at her. It's been 15 years and I'm still mad at her. Oh, well.
Yeah, one of those I will never forgive things.
How do you do small sound effects such as sigh?
Depends. Are you doing them in English or Japanese?
The Japanese symbol for it typically is like a mushroom.
Yeah, like a bump,
like that.
Something like this, yeah.
That's a little mushroom.
Yeah.
In English, I literally just put the word sigh.
Yeah. Could do something soft.
With asterisks. With asterisks.
You could do that,
Yeah.
or there's like this three shape thingy that you can also do. What's got like the 3 different shapes. You can do that as well. I've seen that
Yeah, you've
sometimes.
got stars. So
There's lots of ways you can do it because it's how the person is sighing too. I just had a page with this.
hey, Miso.
The character size.
George is
Right.
part of the show. Miso might
Yep.
as well be too.
Yeah. Yeah, Miso's playing with her new feather toy that I've got for her.
Right.
Because
So you just had a
destroyed
page
the other one.
that you actually put that in there. Yeah. And see, the way that Can's doing it is actually kind of cool too because it's dripping.
Yeah.
The
The thing with a sigh is you want to have how they're doing it too.
Right, because
So,
you have
like-
things like sigh, like, and then you have, which is more like a huff, but there's also
Yeah.
like you're out of breath sigh, like you're trying to breathe. There's so many different types of sighs, and then there's like,
Or there's the
yeah.
disgusted sigh where it's like,
yeah, oh yeah,
and you can actually, using the onomatopoeias, you can actually go through and put in a lot of characterization, and actually, when you draw them, have little things coming off so that it looks more. It gives it more feeling.
right.
As it were.
I did the mushroom, but then I put the word in there because people were saying that it wasn't understandable.
visual grammar. People learn
Right.
it. Visual grammar. I will die on the hill of visual grammar. I
Oh,
swear
I
to
will
God,
too.
it will be the death of me one day.
I think the other thing I do is I'll put 2 panels together where she's in action on it. Let's see if I can find an example of that. Because I know somewhere we had 2 panels where they're together and she sighs because of whatever reasons, and for reasons. So I'm just going to look here and see if I can find the page. Because this is what I was talking about by I needed to stop moving from time to time, and I didn't quite get that in the same way until I started drawing the modified Marvel way. And so now I'm doing modified Marvel. And I feel like I had it somewhere where she just... Oh, it's in the one that has nakedity, so I can't actually bring it up. But I do like I personally like the 2 panel thing. I have it in a different way for a different reason. Here, where I bring up, it's the same panel, so you can see that she's moving. Right? So, like, doing a thing and then duplicating the panel with slight motion difference to indicate she moved. I've done that with the sigh in the other one too, where you have panel 1 and she's like looking off to the side, and then panel 2 she's like, and so you see the sigh, like she drops her shoulders and her cage falls down a little and stuff like that. So I've got to come up with, speaking of language, we're going to have to come up with a language for these guys, my Shakrana. Visual languages for them. Because I've been thinking about how their eyes move to give different thought processes. Like, so like if the eyes aren't both level, they're perplexed, and like if the eyes tilt down, they're shy, or whatever, you know what I mean, like they've got a language. because their eyes are on stalks, so the little stalks can move, and so these are his eyes right up here, and so the stalks can move. So I've got to come up with a visual language for that, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to that.
Oh boy, now I get to pick my songs. Yay! Sound effects.
Sound effects are cool.
Speaking of sound effects.
Yep. That sounds like a navigation error, Lieutenant. Skipper, I promise I checked them twice. Even had Sergeant better check them. Bridge critics can confirm. All right. There's a lot of language that I give in my comics that I'm noticing. That's the technobabble is very specific. Hey, and for a minute there, Neon, you managed to get all three of us having comic panels up at the same time. From our respective comics. Which actually is kind of cool too, because like that's something we could, save and use in an opening credit sequence someday. Because I was noticing all the stuff in our opening credits. I'm like, I got the best I could out of these. So it's kind of like, All right, gentle beings, gentle folk. We are at the midnight hour. At least the midnight hour in Mountain Time. It's 11 o'clock Neon's time, and it's 1 o'clock on Cat's side. But either way, I think we're at the end of our show for the night.
Well, at least I got the page inked.
Yeah.
For the end.
I am still
There's a lot going on
this
page.
So, Cat, Neon, both of you guys, this was happening this morning. I was going into this scene, and all I could do was just I couldn't get out of the technobabble. I was so deep into the lore of this technobabble that this is what these pages were looking like. Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, I really need to cut that down. And so it's actually interesting you brought that up tonight, Kat, because that was exactly what I was doing. What's the goal of this scene? What do the people need when we exit this scene? What's the information that needs to be conveyed? And so I was literally breaking it down like that because I was getting all caught up in the technobabble. And so that's sort of what I did when I started tonight. You were talking about this and I was doing the same thing. I was kind of sitting over here going, okay, what I need to do is this. How am I exiting?
It worked out.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's hard because we have a character who has done something magnificently weird, and the audience knows she's done something weird, but I have to have my characters write it off. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be almost like if you showed up at my doorstep in like 20 minutes, I'd be like, something's weird about this. But then my brain would start going, well, maybe you logged in to our show while in transit, or maybe, because I know you're in a different state, so you can't be here in 20 minutes. So, so I'm trying to do that with the characters, and it's hard because it's all technobabble stuff that they would know intuitively. My characters would know intuitively, but the audience doesn't know. So it's rough. We'll get there. Kan was like on because Kan was just in the chat room on the duck pond, and he's like, We'll work on this one. This is like a threat level. He's like,
Why
we're
am I
gonna-
struggling with Sue? Oh my god. There we go. I got it. I was struggling with Sue for some freaking reason. I was like, it keeps looking like she. Ugh. Sorry.
Okay, my folks. I guess I'm gonna roll us out, and I'll see you tomorrow because I'm gonna hit the hay. I'll be back online tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time if you want to join me. And tomorrow is Friday, so there will be no tomorrow night show, and there won't be one on Saturday night, but there will be on Sunday night. So we'll be back again Sunday night at 10 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you for joining me tonight, Neon and Kat and Can. Appreciate it. I don't know if David's out there. I think David was at the artist meeting. So I'll see you all later. And as always, keep your eyes on the stars. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.